Melbourne has two terminus stations, Southern Cross for regional trains, and the ever so iconic Flinders Street station for most metropolitan trains. But like any good big station, they also need to be connected up. And indeed they are connected up, using a viaduct linking the two. A bonus of this link is that it also comes with a complementary complicated junction. And so in today's video, I'm completing the Tate set trilogy and explaining the Southern Cross to Flinders Street junction. Overview. Flinders Street. Flinders Street's facade was completed in 1910, and it survived over a century to modern day. Today, Flinders Street has 13 platforms, numbered 1 to 14. Number 11 was removed, most likely in 1992, when the tracks were removed to make way for a subway entrance. The 13 platforms are made up of 5 islands and 2 side platforms. The 5th island isn't shown in this diagram. Flinders Street also included a parcel dock at the tail end of Platform 1. It currently sits disused and overgrown, but the tracks are operational. The parcel dock is a relic from when Melbourne had electric goods trains. Platform 13 is also a dock platform, and was once an island, but it was cut short when the aforementioned Platform 11 was removed. All metropolitan trains go through or terminate at Flinders Street, with the exception of the puzzling Stony Point line. Southern Cross. The current Southern Cross station was built in 2005, after the old 1960 building was heavily rebuilt. There's a total of 16 platforms at Southern Cross. The country platforms are 1 to 8, these are dead-end platforms, and platforms 15 and 16. But this diagram doesn't show the dead-end platforms. The country platforms are also divided into A and B sections, with most having a third track in the middle to bypass other trains or allow loco-hauled trains to run around the other end. The metropolitan side is made up of 3 islands, numbered 9 to 14. Platform 8 and 8S are normally used for V-line trains, but are electrified, and special event trains sometimes run off them, mainly ones to Flemington Racecourse. Platforms 15 and 16 aren't electrified and are used for country trains. They were built as part of the regional rail link completed in 2015. This third track here is electrified and is also used as a goods line, but it's also used by metropolitan trains to access a stabling yard. In fact, not a lot of the complex is unelectrified. Only the disused parcel docks at Flinders Street and platforms 15 and 16 at Southern Cross. It's worth noting that Platform 1 and 2 at Southern Cross are also dual gauge, able to be used by both standard gauge and broad gauge trains. The Viaducts. In between the two stations is a viaduct, actually 2 viaducts. The first viaduct has 4 tracks. All tracks are bidirectional, meaning trains can go either direction. It was built in 1891 and was quadded in 1915. The 4 tracks north to south are called the Clifton Hill Loop, a less common name would be the City Circle Loop, the Burnley Loop, Northern Loop, and finally the Caulfield Loop. The second viaduct was opened in 1987, and it's a double-track concrete structure. The first one was metal. It's a unidirectional viaduct and follows a different alignment to the old one, due to Sea Life Aquarium blocking the way. Most of the complex is all bidirectional trackage. Any train can go any direction. This is shown in green, and only the through suburban has unidirectional trackage. Up tracks are towards Flinders Street and shown in red, and the down tracks are towards Southern Cross and shown in blue. It isn't very interesting because the bulk of the trackage here is bidirectional. Diagram. This is the diagram for Southern Cross to Flinders Street. While there aren't as many crossovers as North Melbourne or Richmond, it does provide a lot of flexibility for the inner city. The Clifton Hill Group is made up of the Mernda and Hurstbridge lines. It comes into Flinders Street from the east and runs solely clockwise around the city loop. They arrive into Flinders Street Platform 1, go through 2 crossovers before crossing the viaduct on the Clifton Hill Loop, and arrive into Southern Cross on Platform 9 before driving back into the city loop to return. I've also seen Clifton Hill trains go through platforms 2 and 3 at Flinders Street. However, it's impossible to go into the Clifton Hill tunnel via another platform at Southern Cross, due to the position of the loop portal. The Burnley Group. The Burnley Group is made up of the Glen Waverley, Alamein, Lilydale, and Belgrave lines. It's one of two groups that still change directions midday, so it can come into Flinders Street from both the east and west. The Burnley Group goes clockwise around the loop via Flinders Street in the morning and then swaps around in the afternoon, going anti-clockwise via Parliament. Going anti-clockwise, a Burnley train comes out of the tunnel portal at platform 10 at Southern Cross, then goes onto the Viaduct using the Burnley loop until reaching Flinders Street platform 2 or 3. However, Burnley trains can use any platform besides platforms 10, 12 and 13, which is impressive flexibility. Going clockwise, the Burnley Group can only ever use platform 10 at Southern Cross, due to the same problem as the Clifton Hill Group. Northern Group. The Northern Group is made up of the Craigieburn, Upfield and Sunbury lines. The latter is soon to be taken out of the loop. The Northern Group is the second group to swap directions midday. It copies the Burnley Group in a way, but instead of going clockwise in the morning, it goes anti-clockwise via Southern Cross, and clockwise in the afternoon via Flagstaff. The Northern Group is also special in that it's the only group that has its tunnel portals on the west side of Melbourne's CBD. In the morning, the Northern Group would arrive at Southern Cross platform 11, going on the Northern Loop on the Flinders Street Viaduct, and then arriving at Flinders Street platform 4 and 5. At Southern Cross, the Northern Group can use platforms 8 and 10 to 14. However, due to the position of the Northern Loop tunnel portal at Flinders Street, Northern Loop trains are unable to use any other platforms. Caulfield Group. The Caulfield Group is made up of the Pakenham and Cranbourne lines. However, this group will be taken out of the loop and commence through running with the Sunbury line in the coming year. Currently, it comes into Flinders Street through the west, and is also a fixed direction, like the Clifton Hill Group. Unlike the Clifton Hill Group, it goes anti-clockwise around the loop instead. It arrives into Southern Cross platform 12, goes onto the Flinders Street Viaduct via the Caulfield Loop, and arrives into Flinders Street platforms 6 and 7. Caulfield Group trains can also use platforms 4, 8, 9 and 10, and at Southern Cross, the Caulfield Group can also use platform 13 if required. Cross City Group. As the name suggests, the Cross City Group goes across the city, from the Werribee and Williamstown lines in the southwest to the Frankston line in the south, so they don't use the city loop. The Cross City Group comes into Flinders Street from both the east and the west. It uses platforms 13 and 14 at Southern Cross. They go over the newer built concrete viaduct. Trains going to the west use the down line, and trains going east use the up line. They arrive at Flinders Street platforms 8, 9 and 10, and technically, they can use any platform, except for platforms which are blocked by city loop portals, and platform 13 at Flinders Street. It's worth noting that platform 10 at Southern Cross is accessible to outbound trains only. Regional and freight trains. Regional trains normally use platforms 7 and 8 at Flinders Street, but they can run off platforms 9 and 10, and they rarely ever use 6, as that would require sharing with the already very busy Caulfield Group. However, using platform 10 would require V-line trains to cross over several busy running lines at Richmond, so it isn't used very often. V-line trains would then run along the through suburban until reaching the crossovers at Southern Cross for the unelectrified platforms 15 and 16. At Southern Cross, the passengers disembark and the V-line trains either terminate and shunt into the yard or form another train out towards the west. Aside from passenger trains, Melbourne also has a couple of freight trains that pass through this area as well, these being the Maryvale Paper Train and the Long Island Steel Train. And seeing as they both come from Caulfield, they both take relatively the same route. They come into Flinders Street on track 9A, the middle track between platforms 9 and 10, go over the crossover to go onto the through suburban to cross the viaduct, until reaching the flats for platform 15 and 16, but instead of going through the platforms, the goods trains go on the electrified bypass line until reaching the arrivals yard. The second goods line. A topic that didn't really fit anywhere nicely that I wanted to talk about was this middle line in between platform 1 and 2 at Flinders Street, because it doesn't see use very often. Back when country trains used to use platform 1 at Flinders Street, the line would have been used to shunt trains or bypass trains. The track today is now used very infrequently for random movements. And as a child, I always found the line fascinating and thought it was disused and abandoned, just like the parcel docks. Today, the Clifton Hill Group uses Platform 1. Formerly, the Clifton Hill Group terminated at another station known as Princess Bridge, and that's why regional trains could use Platform 1. The two stations were connected underground, and the platforms were joined up, meaning Flinders Street used to have 16 platforms. However, Princess Bridge closed in 1997. Platforms 15 and 16 of Flinders Street were demolished as well, leaving the disused Platform 14 a relic from the old station. Thanks for watching, guys. A special thanks to Tate Set for inspiring this video. If you have more junctions or even entire lines you would like me to cover next, then leave them in the comments below. If not, like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.